Hi class, so today again we will be looking at the CSV module. So in the last lecture you must have seen that we basically just use simple file operations for reading a CSV file. In the assignment that I gave you, you must have seen that you must have read the file and then use the split function, right? Split using comma in order to read the CSV file. Now Python basically provides us with a very strong CSV module, right? Because CSV file formats are very widely used. All ML, AI data and everything basically is stored into CSV file because it is easier to process also. Right? So today we will be looking at the CSV module. Before that, I would recommend you all to have the Rainbow CSV extension in VS Code. Now, how to do that? So you can come to the extension part, and in the extension part, just type Rainbow CSV. Right? So I already have it installed, and it is showing me disable or uninstall. You can just click install button here in order to install the Rainbow CSV add-on. Right? It actually helps you to see the CSV file actually how it is, right? Because as you already know, the CSV file basically is a comma separated file. So let me first open this in Excel, reveal in Explorer, and let me open this file in Excel actually. Although we have seen this, but I think it's again a very quick revision in order to get a feel how the CSV file actually looks. Right? So you can see this looks like a normal Excel file. You have the name, country, profession, right? Like Sachin is India, cricketer, Albert Einstein, Germany, physicist, Roger Federer, Switzerland, and tennis. Right? It appears like a normal Excel file only, but the beauty here is you can actually open this in a notepad, as simple as a notepad. You can see this. So this file appears like a normal notepad file also. Now you may say that, okay, now if I have a XLS file, right? So let's say I have an Excel file here, 14 MTech batch, and if I open with Notepad, so you can see it is all a binary format. So not everything that you can open in Excel can be opened in Notepad. Why? Because if you see here, this particular file here right now is having an extension XLSX, fine. And the files which we are dealing is CSV. You can see the extension here, which is CSV, right? Comma separated values. Now what happens here, because for example when you open this file into Notepad, you can see that all the values are separated by comma. Sachin, comma, India, comma, cricketer. So this shows that we are using comma to separate the values. And when you open this file in Excel, what Excel does is makes the comma as a column, right? It makes it like a logical separator. Excel does not show you basically what is the comma here. Excel directly shows you like a virtual column because Excel supports the CSV format, comma separated, right? So let me don't save it. And why I wanted to install that the Rainbow CSV, because you can see everything, this name Sachin, A.R. Rahman, Albert Einstein, APJ Abdul Kalam and Roger Federer, these are basically all belonging to the name field, right? Since the length is not same, like Sachin is 6 characters, A.R. Rahman is a longer character, Albert Einstein is even longer character, and then you can see Rainbow CSV highlights everything which is in the second column, which is separated by comma, into blue color. And you can see the blue color is here. And similarly, the third is profession. You can see there is a light yellow color, right? So it helps you to actually see, the file in a very different manner. You can actually gauge that, okay, these are the kind of things that I am writing. You can even see this thing. We have name, country, profession, right? So that is how the Rainbow CSV helps you. You can also see in the Rainbow CSV, if you come to the VS Code in the bottom, you can see there is something known as align. Click on the align and it will actually show you this like a proper Excel format, right? This is everything in the first column, everything here is a second column, and everything here is a third column. It did not make any change to the file, but actually you can see here in this fashion how the file is actually arranged. It has 3 columns, name, country and profession. You can see this comma can be treated like a virtual column, right? See, once I select the comma, VS Code automatically selects all the comma. So now you can see this vertical line, it can be treated like a column only, a virtual column. I can again click the shrink button to make the file appear as it is. Right, now let us see how do we work with the CSV module. So first click on File, Open Folder. Sorry, I forgot to see you this. On the 2021, the date today is 6th September, right? So come to the 6th September lecture and we are good to go, right? So there is a lecture 00, just ignore it that right now. You can start with the lecture 01, right? Lecture 01 is here. Fine. Now what happens? We have import CSV. See, this import CSV means Python provides a module which is known as CSV. This is an inbuilt module provided by Python to process and read CSV files. Fine. Now what is the advantage here? The advantage here, okay, I'm just doing import os and os.cls. Now see what I'm doing here, I'm doing the with open people.csv into the read mode as file, right? So we have already seen how do we read files in using the with clause. So I'm reading people.csv file in the read mode. So let us see what is people.csv. So people.csv is this particular file. It has a header, right? This is actually the header actually because it does not contain information, and it has 5 lines of information. Fine. Now let us read the file. So there is this CSV module. So you can see whenever you have a module, something like a CSV. For example, if we come to our drawing board, so let's say you have a module import CSV. So this is a module, right? Now inside a module, you will have various functions actually. A module can have various functions. And how to refer the function? So let me change the pen color. So the shortcut here is module name dot, and then we have the function name, right? So what is the module name in our case? The module name is CSV here. In our case, it is CSV here, and dot whatever is the function name. So now let us see here what we are doing. See, CSV is the module name, right? CSV is the module name dot. Now this means this reader is an inbuilt function of the CSV module, right? This reader is an inbuilt function with the CSV module. Fine. So if you can actually just see like this. If I right click here and say go to definition, so basically it is opening underscore csv.pyi, right? Now forget everything, but you can just see there is a definition reader here, right? Similarly, there is a definition writer here. Similarly, there is a definition register dialect here. So there are many functions in the CSV module. Fine. So now what I'm doing, I'm reading the file. So what is file? File is nothing but a handle that is pointing to people.csv. So basically now I'm reading people.csv. Fine. So let me just comment out this line and show you what is the output of this reader. This will be some random address here. You can see CSV reader object 0 cross, and there is some memory address, right? So what happens, this reader what we are writing, this is basically a handle to the file people.csv, handle to the file people.csv. Fine. So it is showing a particular address here, right? So you can ignore, you may have a different address when you compile it on your machine. Fine. Now let me comment this. So now see what is the loop that I am writing for row in reader. So this reader basically points to this file and reads the file line by line. Remember, this is important. This reads the file line by line. Let me just execute the code, right? So now you can see when I do a print reader, I have a CSV reader object at this particular location. Fine. And now what I'm doing for row in reader, right? So what happens if you see what file we are reading? People.csv. So people.csv, what happens? The reader will read it line by line. So the entire line is read by reader. Then the reader variable reads this line. Then the reader variable reads this line, and so on. Now what happens? I'm doing for row in reader, right? Because the reader is reading row wise. And then I'm printing the every row. Basically reader points to the whole file. So it's take the whole file in the memory and then we are printing it each row. Now one interesting thing you can observe here is that if you see the file people.csv, it is not a list, right? It is a simple text that is written one after the other. But when you see the output file, you can see this output is basically a list, right? And if you want to confirm here, let me just print out type of the row, right? We are reading row wise. Let me run the code. So you can see whatever row it is reading and it is showing what is the type of the row, and type of the row is nothing but class list. So now basically what does the CSV module do is read your CSV file row by row into a list. Now just see how important this is. Once you know that you are able to read your files into a list line by line, and then you know you have tons of operation that can be done on the list. You have tons of operation. All those operations now can be applied on the file format, right? That is the reason I gave you the assignment without the CSV module first, right? The next assignment would be the same one, but with the CSV module now, right? So now what happens here? See, you can see the first line, name, country, profession, it reads the entire line and just makes it a list. Since everything here is a string, it encloses them within the single quotes, right? So this is how basically you read everything into a CSV module, right? Now you can see how easy it is to read into a CSV module, right? Remember the assignment which you must have done, you must have done a file open, then you must have done a split, and then split on the comma, and then you select the particular index, fine? In this case, you can see how easy it is to select the every row, right? So now let us do something print, and let us print the row 0, right? Basically, what is row 0? It is basically name. So name is equal to row 0, right? So you can see the name is Sachin. Why? Because it is reading the entire list, entire file in a row wise fashion into a list. And when I read particular row, I am actually saying, see, this row basically when I'm typing, it prints the entire row as a single list. And now when I'm indexing into a row 0, right? When I'm inserting into a row 0, that means the first index. What is the first index? The first index is name here. The first index is AR Rahman here. The first index is Albert Einstein here, right? Similarly, if I want to make it, for example, let us make -1. What is -1? The last column. What is the last column? That is the profession. Profession. Fine. The profession is selected. So when I run the code, you can see profession physicist, profession scientist. Fine. And you can do as many operations as you want. So for example, if you want to concatenate this name plus profession, right? So let me do row of 0 plus row of this. So you can see name plus profession is APJ Abdul Kalam, and of course I just concatenated both the things without anything in between. So let me put a hyphen here. Right, so you can see name, profession, Albert Einstein hyphen physicist, AR Rahman hyphen musician, right? So quite an easy module, right? And very intuitive also, right? Now you can read every row as a list, and then you know you can perform any amount of operations on the list, fine? So let us move to the second program. As you can see, CSV handling lecture 2, CSV delimiter. Now what do I mean by delimiter? See, when you saw the people.csv file, the delimiter is basically the comma. As you see the word delimiter, right? I am delimiting some characters by a particular unique value, right? Because see, when the interpreter sees comma as a delimiter, by default the CSV module treats comma as a delimiter, but you can have any other delimiter also. I will just show you an example. So delimiter is nothing that separates the entities of a CSV file, right? So now let us see. I have another file, the same file people, but here you can see I am separating them by hash, right? So you can separate them by anything as long as it is unique to the file, right? So for example, here the hash is being used as a separator, right? If I use table is already aligned, okay. Because the rainbow CSV is not able to identify this as a hash separated, right? It always treats comma as a separation. So now you can see the same file. I am basically saying that the entities are separated by hash, right? Now let me just show you, if you want to, if you open this file in Excel, see how Excel will open this. So what has Excel done? So you can see the column A here. In the column A, Excel has kept all the entries into a single column. But in the previous case, when you were reading the people.csv file, because things were separated by comma, Excel automatically determined that, okay, the comma is a separator and put them into columns. Fine. Now I will show you how can you do the same with a hash file. Right. So for doing that, this is just for knowledge per se. So in Excel, you just come, okay, come to data, right? Come to the data tab, and here you can see there is a button here from text. Click on from text and go to the location where your file is. So now you can see I'm selecting the file people hash. I'm selecting this file, and now it comes a wizard, right? So it is asking me whether my text is delimited or fixed width, right? So in this case, my text is delimited. So I do next, and now it is asking what is the separation that I am having. So as you can see, I am having a separation which is not semicolon, not comma, not space. It is something other. And what is the other? I am giving hash, right? So now you can see here, it will show you the data preview also. If I select semicolon, nothing happens. If I select comma, nothing happens. The moment you see I tick other, you will see some virtual columns here. See, this virtual column has formed. I uncheck it, it makes it like a single column. Now you can see next, and you can do a finish, right? So you can see even with the help of hash, now we are able to separate out 3 columns into Excel. At times it helps because sometimes you get files which are tab separated or semicolon separated, all those things. So this is how you basically deal with these files, right? Now you can see this is the same file like people, right? Same file like people, same content. Only thing is the file is hash separated, right? The file is hash separated. Now how do you deal with this, right? So now again the same thing, import CSV, import OS. I am clearing the screen. Now you can see I'm opening the file people underscore hash dot CSV in the read mode. So this line is exactly the same that we saw in the previous code. You can see exactly the same, right? Only the file name has changed. Now when I'm reading, basically you can see again I'm using the csv.reader function, right? I'm using the csv.reader function. In the previous case also I used, but I only specified the file, right? The file handle. But this time I'm specifying one more parameter. You see delimiter, and I'm saying when you are reading line by line, separate the entities using hash. Separate the entities using hash. Now let us see the output for this. So you can see the output is same here. Every list contains 3 objects because the delimiter was hash. Now let me put the delimiter as comma, right? When I put the delimiter as comma, as I know people underscore hash has a hash separation, it will still execute, but just keep an eye on the output, right? Let me just remove this line. Now you will see it will still be a list, but it will be all the complete line into a single object. You just see this. So now you can see it's still a list, but name, country, profession is together. Sachin, India cricketer is together. So every list contains only a single object. Every list contains only a single object. Fine. Why? Because my delimiter was comma, which was wrong. When I do delimiter as hash, you can see in the previous case, it appeared absolutely right. Fine. Let me run the code again. Now you can see it is appearing absolutely correct. Fine. So whatever delimiter you have, you can specify the delimiter in the reader of function. In the reader function, it takes delimiter as a variable, right, as a function argument, and then you can specify what is the delimiter. So class, let's take a break for 5 minutes. We will return at 12:29. Doubts are welcome. Hi class, welcome back. So I hope things are clear up till now. One thing I want to specify you that when you're dealing with a CSV file, the delimiter has to be kind of uniform. Uniform in the sense, for example, let me keep this delimiter as comma, right? And let me keep this delimiter also as comma. So now this is not a well-formed CSV file. It does not have a well-formed CSV file, right? Because why? Because the separators are multiple, hash also and comma also, right? So whatever format you specify, right, you cannot have an intelligent format that okay, for this line and this character have comma, for this line and this character have hash. Now you will understand that since I have a malformed or a not a good formed CSV file, if I'm using delimiter hash, let us see the output once. Okay, let me clear the screen. So now you can see in this particular case, this India and scientists have been clubbed together, right? You can see this is the first object and this is the second object, right? Why India and scientists have been clubbed? Because they were separated by a comma, and we have asked the CSV module to separate entries by hash, right? Similarly, right, if I do something like this, for example, if you see AR Rahman India, here we have only these two elements have been combined. So whenever you are dealing with a CSV file, just you need to check whether the file is in a proper format. A good way, I mean, to a very naive way, is to see whether it's a Excel formatted thing, right? You can open it in Excel and just check whether all the columns are appearing correctly or not, right? So now one more program is there. Let me just put an exit here, right? If you see the file people underscore spaces, right? People underscore spaces. So now if you can see here, this is again a comma separated file. It is a CSV file. You can see the rainbow CSV has colored them with yellow, blue and white. But you can see there is some initial space here, which I have deliberately put, right? Before Albert Einstein, there is space. Before Sachin, there is space, right? Before Switzerland, there is a space here, right? So when you come to the module 3, lecture 3, basically skip initial space, you can see everything is the same here, but in the reader function I am actually specifying skip initial space equal to false, right? By default this value is always false, but I'm just trying to explain you the parameter and its importance, right? Let me just run the code. So you can see the initial spaces are actually retained here in Albert Einstein, in Sachin. The initial spaces are retained in the Switzerland also, right? But now there is a function in which the same thing, right? In this case, you can see I am writing skip initial space equal to true. So what does this do basically is all the initial spaces are now ignored basically. So just keep an eye on Sachin, Albert Einstein and the Switzerland. This initial space will be actually truncated. Right? Let me just run the code. So now you can see Sachin, the initial space is truncated, Albert Einstein it is truncated, and Switzerland it is truncated. Right? I can just show you both the outputs together. You can see Sachin here with initial skip space as false, and now when I make this as true, this is Sachin. Albert Einstein here and here, and you can see Switzerland and Switzerland. So see, the advantage of this is being, for example, wherever the spaces is coming in the start, automatically everything is ignored. If you are not using this function, skip initial space equal to false or true basically, what would you have to do? You had to read every word and then do a step function, right? If you want to do a left step, it is L step. If you want to do a right step, it is R step. So rather than doing the step function and making the code very clumsy, right, you can use the skip initial space equal to true to remove all the spaces at the start, right? So now you can see how powerful this reader function is, CSV reader basically. And now how do you write to a CSV file using the CSV module, right? The last part for today's lecture, right? Now how do you write? As you saw, when you are reading from a CSV file, everything is being read into a list, right? Every line is a list basically. The same thing happens when you write, right? So see, here is a file which is known as people underscore write.csv with a write clause, right? And I will explain you why I'm putting this new line equal to blank, right? So what is here now? CSV module has the writer function. How I just told you. How do you see that? Module name under dot function name, right? So what is the module name here? Module name is CSV. CSV is retained here. Dot writer and the file that we are writing, right? So what is the file? The file name is people underscore write dot CSV. So always remember, whenever you are writing something into the write mode, if this file does not exist, it will be freshly created. If this file exists, then the whole file will be made into a blank file. First, every contents will be erased and it will be opened with 0 bytes. Right? Now see what I am writing here. I am writing 3 rows. Write row again is a function. This writer object has a function known as write row. Write row basically what you can see, I am writing the file. I am specifying the comma also here, fine, and I am using the list. You can see name, country, profession. So I am writing 3 lines to the file. Let me execute the code. Right click, run the code. Of course, it is only writing to the file, so there is no output here. But let us see this file, people underscore write.csv. On the left hand side, people underscore write, you can see everything is written to the file, right? Let me show you. If I blank this file, right? Anyways, the write mode will blank, but I am manually blanking it, and then I am actually writing it. See, I'm running the code. The code executed perfectly. People underscore write, and you can see here the written text for whatever you have. Fine. Now, for example, if you have to write 10,000 lines, so this is not a very good method. So what you can do, we can have a shorthand for this, right? So what is a shorthand? I can make a list of lists. See, I'm making a CSV row list. You can see these are the same 3 lines that I had in the previous code. If you can see this particular code, these are the same 3 lines that I have written individually here. I am just copying these 3 lists in the next code and keeping them in a list, and this whole list is enclosed in this particular list, right? So this becomes a list of list, right? Why? Because this is an individual list and this is a list altogether, right? So now my list contains 3 lists individual. So what I'm doing here, I am saying people underscore write multiple, right? This is my file. I am opening it in the read mode. New line is blank. I will explain you what is new line is blank as file. And now you can see instead of write rows, I'm just specifying the one list which contains 3 lists. And one interesting thing here is the delimiter specified is this pipe operator. I will show you how the output looks like. Let me just run the code. So when I run the code, everything is fine, no errors. What is the file name? People underscore write multiple. So you can see people underscore write multiple, and you can see the delimiter has come as pipe, right? The rainbow CSV is intelligent enough even to recognize the pipe as a separator, right? You can see country, India, USA, right? You can have anything here, right? If I keep this as hash, so you can see the output will be hash, right? I have made the delimiter as hash. So you can see the hash separated has come. But the rainbow CSV is not able to identify hash as a separator object, right? Now just check if I don't keep this particular line, new line is equal to blank, right? So now what happens in this particular case is, if you don't keep this, right, let me remove this particular thing. And now you just see the output here, right? I am executing this. So now you can see that an extra blank line is inserted here, right? An extra blank line is inserted in the between. The behavior here is very strange, right? What I have seen here, when you execute in Windows, right? So when you execute in Windows, you actually need to keep this line, right? New line is equal to blank. That means don't insert blank new lines after pasting the data into the file, right? New line equal to blank means don't keep the new lines in between the lines that you are writing, right? Like this. So you can see there is a line here, a line here, a line here. This looks ugly, right? Because this line has no meaning at all. Fine. So basically we say explicitly new line equal to blank. Let us execute the code. And then when you see the file, people write multiple, you can see there is no new blank line at the end. Right? So that was the use of basically the new line is equal to blank. What I have seen here is that if you do this in Linux and Mac and you don't specify this, even then there is no blank line done. I have observed this in Linux system. I'm not saying every Linux system, but I have observed this in practice, right? But as a whole, it's a good practice to always include this thing so that your code becomes compatible with both Windows as well as Linux systems. Fine. So class, for today's I'm stopping here because this is a new module, complex, a little bit complex and a powerful module also. So today's lecture will be short, only 40 minutes. Tomorrow we will see how to read a CSV file into a dictionary object, right? Of course, there are only 4 programs left, but I don't want to burden you guys, right? The midsem is also approaching after 2 weeks. So let us stop the class here. Hardik, writing speeds, I will have to check once, but usually the binary operations are always faster than non-binary operation. So whenever you are dealing in binary object writing and reading, the storage reading speed and the storage writing speed are always enhanced, because when you are writing in binary mode, you are only writing zeros and ones, zeros and ones. So there is an advantage in writing speeds as well as reading speeds for sure. Fine class. Any doubts relating to the CSV module are welcome. Today again we will continue with the CSV module and we will see how to read into a dictionary objects. Fine. So class, that's it for today's class. If you don't have doubts, you can exit the session. If you have doubts, you can ask on the chat box. Okay guys then.